Atha Yoga Anushasanam. Namaste. Welcome to Unravel the Thread, a podcast for people who want to apply the Yoga Sutras to yoga practice and to life today. Available online at simple-yoga.org, where you can also find dozens of videos for practice, hundreds of articles, videos for chanting, and guided meditations. All free resources to enrich your yoga practice. I am Ruben Vasquez, your companion on this journey of exploration. I am grateful for your comments and questions. It really makes my day to know that Unravel the Thread is making a difference in your practice and in your life. This podcast presents excerpts from the book Unravel the Thread, the complete guide for living the Yoga Sutras today. It also offers practices inspired by the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. If you love the podcast and want to support my work as an independent content creator, on the simple-yoga.org website, you can easily donate to keep the podcast going. Today, we will continue our exploration of the definition of health, appetites, and elimination. In the previous episode, we offered a comprehensive definition of health that includes all aspects of our being and their interrelationships. Here is the definition again. Health is the harmonious integration of adequate appetites, efficient elimination, optimal posture, graceful movement, cheerful attitude, calm mind, and compassionate interaction. In this episode, we will explore the first two elements of our definition: adequate appetites and efficient elimination. Let's begin by considering that all natural processes have two complementary aspects, input and output. For all of us, a lived example of a process composed of these two aspects is our breathing. Each round of breath consisting of an inhalation and an exhalation. In yoga, the practice of pranayama is dedicated to consciously exploring the breath, often creating different ratios of inhalation and exhalation for specific purposes, sometimes with the intention of feeling more alert, sometimes to feel more relaxed. Regardless of how much we manipulate our breath, observing our breathing helps us to notice how our organism is constantly finding ways to create a balance between inhaling and exhaling so that there is enough oxygen for our metabolic needs and the byproducts of some physiological processes can be eliminated through our exhalations. When our inspirations and expirations are working optimally, we don't even have to think about the process happening. We will return to this idea later in this episode. In our definition of health, appetites are the stimuli for input, guiding our choices for what we bring into our life and into our organism. Elimination is the necessary complement that removes what no longer serves a purpose. Let's begin by thinking about the first element, adequate appetites. The word appetite is used to refer to a desire or craving, most often a desire for food or drink. But let's broaden our awareness of appetite to include factors beyond our internal physiological processes. For instance, some of our appetites may be the result of some of our habits. Like when we are used to having a meal at the same time every day, we will probably find that we start feeling hungry at the same time each day. Some of our cravings may be the result of our activities, such as feeling thirsty after intense exercise, or they may be influenced by our environment, such as when we feel a craving when we are exposed to sights and smells that we find appealing. It is important to remember that there are cravings beyond food and drink, such as sexual cravings, and emotional cravings, such as the need to feel cared for, to be seen and heard, or to make meaningful connections with other people. Some people also experience cravings for activities that produce excitement or similar sensations. Like our appetite for food and drink, these cravings can be influenced by our habits, our environment, and our emotional states. Do you think it might be useful to pay attention to your appetites? What happens when you observe your cravings on a regular basis? Do you notice any patterns? For example, that certain activities, environments, or emotions seem to trigger some of your cravings? Are there any relationships between your physical, mental, and emotional cravings? As always, let's remember that the purpose of observing our behaviors and ways of being is never to judge ourselves, but to gain a clearer and broader perspective on our intentions, actions, and interactions, and to modulate them to enhance the quality of our presence and participation. As we attend to our appetites, we develop greater sensitivity to notice subtleties in them. This is where the word that qualifies appetites in our definition comes into focus: adequate. What is adequate? Adequate means sufficient and suitable or appropriate to meet a need. Paying attention to our appetites and the behaviors associated with them already gives us some clues about the nature of some of these desires. We might notice that we crave engaging with the information and applications on our mobile devices more often when we are bored, or that we crave food when we feel certain emotions. Sometimes our cravings are for things or experiences that make us feel important or relevant. As we become more adept at noticing all kinds of cravings, would it be useful to ask ourselves what need each craving fulfills? Might this be a useful way of discerning the difference between our wants and our needs? Could the yamas of fairness and generosity, asteya, and simplicity, aparigraha, and the niyama of contentment, samtosha, provide useful guidance for modulating our appetites? Would it be helpful to stop and pay close attention to what we are feeling so that we can savor all the sensations associated with that appetite? Another useful question is, does savoring confirm that our appetite was fulfilling a real need? Can my ability to savor and enjoy give me feedback to assess whether my appetite is adequate? Or do I find that I am lacking in nourishment? Perhaps the opposite could happen, that we might find that we are consuming more than is satisfying. Now let's shift our attention from our adequate appetites to the complement of the process, efficient elimination. Because even if our appetites are adequate, the lack of efficient elimination will most likely create an imbalance. Let's begin by considering the concept of elimination, the act of removing, casting aside, disregarding, or expelling. Whatever we bring into our mental, physical, and emotional being must be processed, digested, assimilated, leaving a residue, either what couldn't be processed or a byproduct of the digestion and assimilation processes. For example, it is now understood that dietary fiber plays multiple roles in our digestive system, starting even before digestion by helping to activate our salivary glands, neutralizing acidity in the mouth, helping to clean the teeth, exercising the teeth and jaws, and helping to reduce inflammation of the gums. Dietary fiber also influences the rate of digestion, the assimilation of nutrients, while feeding the good bacteria in the gut and facilitating the passage of waste out of our system. Common sense suggests that it is a good idea to include an adequate amount of fiber in our diet. In other words, to include fiber in our appetite to promote efficient elimination. This idea suggests that what we feed ourselves should ideally contain something that will enhance the process of digestion, assimilation, and elimination. Consider whether this might be the case. It is understandable that in times of scarcity, many of us develop an attitude of accumulating things, thinking that we will need them later. Is it possible that we hold on to ideas, emotions, ways of being, and memories that no longer enhance the quality of our participation in our lives? Is it possible that we could eliminate what is no longer useful, perhaps inspired by the practice of the niyama of clarity and purity, shaucha, as well as the yama of fairness and generosity, asteya? Is it possible that what we hold on to gives us a sense of security while also becoming a burden, something that we need to carry and maintain, like when we have a possession that we never use but that we think we could possibly use? Such possession will probably require maintenance to be usable, so it requires our energy and attention even when we do not use it. Is something like that enhancing the quality of our participation in our life? In some cases, we may discover that some of what we are holding on to could be of use to somebody else. Could this be an avenue for efficient elimination? Through the practice of yoga, we develop the skill of observing all aspects of ourselves, including what we are thinking and what we are feeling. Our practice can help us notice when we hold on to old regrets, resentments, and fears that are no longer necessary. Could these old ideas be an obstacle to our health? If so, can we explore what we are resisting to let go of what we no longer need? What other aspects of our life could benefit from efficient elimination? As we explore this idea of elimination, it may be useful to consider how we go about this process. One way is to sow the seeds of elimination during our conscious response to our appetites, as we mentioned in the example of the role of nutritional fiber in our bodies. Another way is to see elimination as a useful and necessary part of all our appetites. Some of us find that some of our ways of being do not serve us well and create pain and suffering. Sometimes we approach these unhelpful habits forcefully. Other times it may be more useful to use a gentler approach like turning things around, pratipaksha bhavana, where we choose to cultivate a useful behavior or attitude that will eventually grow and organically displace the less useful tendency. How do you view your processes of elimination? Are you aware of the thoughts, emotions, attitudes, and behaviors that create barriers to your happiness and health? How do you address these ways of being? How do you modulate your ways of being, their implications and consequences? Since there is a deep connection between our appetites and elimination, a useful question for our contemplation and for observing our actions is there a balance between my appetites and my elimination? What symptoms indicate to you that your appetites and elimination are in balance? Is it possible that when our appetites and elimination are balanced and integrated, they may not require much attention at all? As usual, my suggestion is to take some time to explore these questions to assess if they are useful for you at this point. Thank you very much for listening. I hope that your exploration this week is enjoyable and that you will join us for the next episode when we will continue our exploration of the next elements in our definition of health, posture and movement. Remember, if you have questions when trying to apply these ideas, do not hesitate to contact me through my website, simple-yoga.org. If Unravel the Thread is part of your day and you feel generous, I would appreciate it if you could support my work by subscribing, liking, and sharing. These are ways of supporting my work that cost nothing. If it is possible for you, you may also support my work by offering a donation at simple-yoga.org. Thank you. Remember that you can have your own copy of Unravel the Thread. Until next time, Namaste.